I feel. If I had it my way, we would have impeached him a long time ago. Actually, if I had it my way, we would have been successful in our objection on January 6th, and he wouldn't even be president. I'm getting better, though. We'll get there.
You've worked with her more recently. Does what he say add up to you at all? And
well, I think Kevin is much more experienced talking to Marjorie about policy than I do, first of all. Secondly, my experience with Marjorie is people have talked to her about not filing articles of impeachment on President Biden before he was sworn into office, on not filing articles of impeachment that were groundless on other individuals in the Biden administration. And she was never moved by that. She was always focused on her social media account. And Moscow Marjorie is focused now on this Ukraine issue and getting her talking points from the Kremlin. And making sure that she is popular and she is getting a lot of coverage.
Yeah, seems like Ken Buck isn't just leaving Congress with a few parting words. In fact, he's leaving with nothing at all left unsaid. The Republican infighting goes into the championship rounds. There's everything from ousted Speaker Kevin McCarthy throwing shade at the undisputed creep of the GOP, Matt Gaetz.
And I'll give you the truth why I'm not Speaker. It's because one person, a member of Congress, wanted me to stop an ethics complaint because he slept with a 17-year-old.
To then Marjorie Taylor Greene using every opportunity outside of making the case for her being one of the most abhorrent people in public office.
And, you know, I come from a business background, and the way you get a job done for your customers, I view the American people as our customers, is we have to work together. So this letter to my colleagues is the beginning of that. First, we admit the problems. First, we admit the wrongs, and then we come up with a plan for change. I'm working on the changes that I would like to see, and I'll be proposing with my colleagues, and I look forward to talking with them about that.
To criticize the fifth choice speaker? I think so.
Are you worried about chaos in the middle of an election year?
Well, of course I'm worried about chaos in an election year. Mike Johnson has put us into chaos. Do you realize that all of my colleagues had to go back to their districts and campaign on the fact that our Republican elected speaker passed the Biden agenda, that he funded the Department of Justice that has 91 federal indictments against President Trump, that he funded the FBI that raided Mar-a-Lago, that he funded Biden's open border, which is the #1 issue in America. Yes, we are in chaos, and that's coming from Mike Johnson, our Republican elected speaker. Am I concerned about a contentious, difficult 3.5 weeks electing a speaker? Absolutely. I was miserable during that time. All of us were. I'm not going to throw our conference into chaos.
But on the topic of QAnon Karen, when asked about her on CNN, a very much fed up former Republican Representative Ken Buck took shots at Representative Marjorie Taylor Greene on Monday, referring to his former colleague as, quote, Moscow Marjorie.
And let's go now to the former Republican Congressman Ken Buck, who was one of the 8 Republicans who had voted to oust then Speaker Kevin McCarthy. So, Congressman, you heard Sondland talk about some of the conspiracies Greene has pushed over the years, and obviously now saying that, you know, if the Speaker doesn't do what she wants regarding Ukraine, she's going to go ahead with what she can now do, right? Just takes one to force a vote on the speakership. Does it worry you that she has this much power in the House of Representatives?
Well, Marjorie has this much power because we have such a small majority at this point in time. Mike Johnson, the Speaker, is on the right side of history, and Marjorie is on the wrong side of history. We know that Russia is propagating these false statements, narratives about what's going on in Ukraine. We know that she is getting her talking points from Russia, and we know that they're false. And Mike Johnson is doing the responsible thing by trying to make sure we get a vote on Ukraine funding, make sure that the Ukrainian people can fight for their freedom. The fact that Marjorie is continuing down this false path, I don't think many Republicans are going to support her. There will be some. And I expect that the Democrats recognize this moment in history and the importance of being bipartisan in supporting Mike Johnson.
Well, we will see. I mean, that's a whole nother can of worms, I guess, as we could say. But Congressman, she has been going after Speaker Johnson over the Ukraine funding, obviously, specifically. But then she just recently suggested to Tucker Carlson something that, sort of took me aback. She had no evidence to back it up, but she said that the whole reason that he may be doing this is because Johnson may be being blackmailed. Let me just play the exchange.
Mike Johnson has made a complete departure of who he is and what he stands for. And to the point where people are literally asking, is he blackmailed? What is wrong with him? Because he's completely disconnected with what we want.
Do you think he is being blackmailed?
I have no idea.
All right. So she's saying people are literally asking, is he being blackmailed? Then says she has no idea when Tucker asked her again. Do you take this seriously?
No, I think it's irresponsible. So many of the statements that Marjorie has made over the years are completely irresponsible. The idea that somehow the speaker is corrupt because he believes that we should be supporting an ally that's been invaded by a war criminal, Vladimir Putin.
The jab comes after former Speaker Kevin McCarthy had said that Marjorie was a, quote, very serious legislator, following her threat to force a vote to oust Speaker Mike Johnson.
So, when you talk about her, it is a bit different, obviously, than what the man you voted to remove as Speaker, Kevin McCarthy, said about her. In fact, this weekend, he said this about Congresswoman Greene.
And the one thing I've always found about Marjorie is she's a very serious legislator that deals with policy. And the best way to deal with anyone like that is sit down and talk to them.
You've worked with her more recently. Does what he say add up to you at all? And
well, I think Kevin is much more experienced talking to Marjorie about policy than I do, first of all. Secondly, my experience with Marjorie is people have talked to her about not filing articles of impeachment on President Biden before he was sworn into office, on not filing articles of impeachment that were groundless on other individuals in the Biden administration. And she was never moved by that. She was always focused on her social media account. And Moscow Marjorie is focused now on this Ukraine issue and getting her talking points from the Kremlin and making sure that she is popular and she is getting a lot of coverage.
all right. Well, Congressman, I appreciate your time and your blunt and honest words. Thank you very much. I appreciate it, sir.
Thank you.
Now, we await results as to whether Kevin McCarthy did have a half bottle or full bottle of vodka before making such asinine statements. Yes, that's a joke. But clearly, Ken Buck disagreed with McCarthy's assessment. Greene has vehemently opposed additional spending for Ukraine aid and filed a motion to vacate the speakership before the Easter recess, and went on to threaten to make the motion privileged if Johnson attempts to pass a bill. And all of this, right, it perfectly encompasses the dysfunction of the GOP. I mean, they refuse to work on bipartisan legislation, they turn on each other at the request of their cult leader, and can't seem to stick with a speaker long enough that Lauren Boebert can a promise.
Congresswoman Lauren Boebert, the firebrand representing Colorado's 3rd Congressional District, is now facing a tough race in November, thanks to a series of personal controversies, also an undersell. Basically, she went to a fundraiser in New York City with Donald Trump and got so drunk they had to cut her off, and then tried to take repeated pictures with Trump, and then they had to tell her, hey lady, like, tone it down.
Yeah, according to the witnesses, this is how it went down. And remind viewers here that this came a few months after that she got in trouble and had to apologize for her conduct at a Denver theater where she was watching a musical performance of Beetlejuice. And, she got kicked out for vaping and being loud, and there's security footage of it. And so this is just an example.
It was much more than vaping and being loud, although I appreciate your attempt to keep this a family program.
PG morning
at 6 in the
version.
morning. Yes, there was a lot more going on. Like, people don't do that. It was a family theater.
It's an impossible job. The Lord Jesus himself could not manage this conference or this kind. You just can't do it.
I think Mike Johnson is a great human. He doesn't lie like the last guy.
I think people don't like dysfunction. So that's not good for our side. And with a 1-seat majority, it doesn't only take a couple people to create dysfunction.
I think Speaker Johnson is working his guts out, doing the best he can with a lot of feral cats.
It's no wonder that Buck abruptly retired from Congress last month. He's had numerous run-ins with Marge, considering both were members of the House Freedom Caucus, which of course she left last year amidst more internal strife.
Marjorie Taylor Greene. Do you want her to be a member of the Freedom Caucus or not?
She's not a member of the Freedom Caucus, and she shouldn't be in the future. She has consistently attacked other members of the Freedom Caucus in an irresponsible way. Mm-hmm. And as a result of that, she was kicked out of the Freedom Caucus, and she should not be a member. We have diverse opinions in the Freedom Caucus. It's not monolithic. But insofar as attacking other members, it just shouldn't be tolerated. Over and over again, it is a series of really poorly thought out attacks on other members.
The caucus also voted to kick out Buck just days before his resignation.
Marjorie Taylor Greene came out and said, we played the sound yesterday, that she's like, I'm not voting for any budget bill, no continuing resolution, nothing that doesn't involve the defunding of Jack Smith's special counsel office and everything that he's doing. Do you feel similarly about that issue as you do to defunding the FBI and the ATF and the DEA, et cetera?
So George, when I was teaching law school, I learned and taught certain constitutional principles. When Marjorie Taylor Greene was teaching CrossFit, she learned a whole different set of values, evidently, because my idea of what this country should be like is based on the Constitution. And she sees the world differently. She's criticized me for, voting to certify the election in 2020. The Constitution says Congress shall count the votes. It doesn't say Congress may overturn an election result. It doesn't say Congress can do whatever the heck it wants with this election. Shall count the votes. That's what the Constitution says. In her CrossFit class, maybe they didn't cover that. And then also, the Constitution also says that, the impeachment of a president shall be based on treason, high crimes, misdemeanors. It doesn't say it's a political exercise,
right?
And we hope that it does the right thing. And so I get tired of people. One of the beauties of Congress is you bring 435 people together from different backgrounds and you try to reach a consensus on issues. When you've got people who care more about their social media accounts than they do about the Constitution, we have a real problem in Congress.
They are, as a whole, as united as the former president and first lady.
People are just wanting change. The rich people want it, poor people want it, everybody wants change. Our country is really doing poorly. We're a laughing stock all over the world, and we're going to get that change very quickly.
Love this video? Make sure you stay up to date on the latest breaking news and all things Midas by signing up to the MeidasTouch newsletter at MeidasTouch.com/newsletter.